How you doing? So I'm going to show you how to make a little onboard HD camera for your mini quad or tiny quad or whatever small quad that can't carry a GoPro. First off, there's a screw on top. Just take that off and you'll notice a battery on the inside. Don't puncture the battery. Try not to rip the leads off so you don't have any stray wires shorting out and frying your board. Next, there's super small screws, so I like to use an X-Acto knife or whatever I have handy, butter knife, drill, handgun. Just remove these screws. They're not in there very tight, so. And whenever you use an X-Acto blade as a tool, make sure you're using a dull one so you don't cut your fingers. Go ahead and get that board out very carefully. That wire I just broke off, that was the motion sensor wire. And next we're going to remove the infrared for night vision. We don't need that. You can desolder it, but I like to show my strength and break it off. Makes me feel like a man. Now we get down to the nitty gritty, and we're going to remove the housing for the camera lens. And be very, very careful when you're doing this that you don't put too much pressure on it and slip through and scratch the sensor. You don't want to scratch the camera sensor at all. So just take your time. Pry that off. And throw it away. Now, get your Crazy Pony, whatever, AIO, FPV camera that has been broken or smashed or ruined but has a good lens, or fried, reverse polarity, that's always a good one. And you're going to pry that housing off the same exact way. Nice and careful. The only thing you're being careful here is not to scratch the inner lens. It doesn't really matter about the sensor because you're not going to be using this camera ever again, probably. We're just cannibalizing. Robotic cannibalization. I scratched this lens from a previous flight, so I'm replacing that with another one that's in a little bit better shape to try to get the best footage that I can. Next, we're going to fit that housing that we removed onto the SQ8 board and make sure that everything fits up nicely. There's 4 little pegs on the bottom of that, and sometimes they break off or bend over. Just bend them straight and they'll fit back. They'll fit in those holes. And then get yourself a Q-tip and clean all your grubby little fingerprints off. You don't want any fingerprints on anything, or your footage is gonna look bad. everything's all clean. Make sure that it fits. Everything looks good. And then we're going to epoxy the housing onto the sensor, the little sensor board. Just making sure there's no scratches on that. Mix up your epoxy nice and well and good and well and good. And then use a nail or something sharp that you can apply it accurately. Take your time. Don't get any on the inner lens. Don't get any on your fingers. Because once it gets on you, it gets everywhere. And you don't want epoxy on your lenses. Take your time. Don't drop it. Don't accidentally touch the sensor. Once that's on, I'm going to let it dry. But I'm going to take this battery off because I want to put a pigtail on so that I can swap out batteries when this one's dead. I'm going to set this aside and let it dry overnight. It says it'd be good in 30 minutes, but I just let it go overnight. So now it's the next day. I've soldered on the pigtail onto the battery and the board, and we'll see if it releases smoke. And no, I actually did it right. Negative goes towards, or negative is closest to the USB port on this camera. And I made a little housing real quick, a little quick mount for to op test it. I just wanted to see if it actually worked before I put time and effort into making a housing for this thing. And then just simply double-sided taped it to the top of the React frame. Camera's held in with a rubber band. Good to go. Let's go see if it works. Have fun. Don't subscribe, don't click like, don't comment. Or you can, it's up to you.